Hello, this is Chris Beachum, managing editor of Gold Derby. And today we're going to talk about the 2024 Emmy nominations coming up, but not in terms of who we're predicting, which you can see any of our predictions on the website anytime you want. We're updating frequently as well. But I've gathered together several of our editors, and we're going to talk about our dream nominees coming up on July 17th. People that are on the bubble that might get in, might not get in, people maybe even a little further down, like a top 10, top 12 kind of a person or show. We're not going to talk today about people that are locked to get in. You won't hear us talking about most of the people on the Bear or Hacks or Shogun or Baby Reindeer, things like that, because they're getting in anyway. We're going to talk about maybe give some mental support, some emotional support to some of the ones that are waiting to see. So here with us, Ray Richmond here in Los Angeles, Marcus Dixon here in Los Angeles, and in our Australia bureau, we've got Matt Noble and Rob Licuria. So
G'day.
guys, let's talk about comedy first. Rob, who's somebody on your comedy bubble that you're hoping gets in at the Emmys?
So no surprise, I am a big fan of Colin from Accounts, and I have been since the beginning. It's been on in Australia for a couple of years now, but it premiered in just recently, I think late last year on Paramount Plus. And yes, we all know that the Emmy voters do have a blind spot for anything that's not on HBO or Netflix or Amazon. Or Hulu, but I hope that they take notice of Colin from Accounts. It's a very funny show. It's sweet, it's feel good, it's a little raunchy, and it's the perfect example of an international show that can break through with American audiences. It happens from time to time. It doesn't happen very often for shows from Australia, but I think this might be the one. I really hope that they give some love to the show, if not in comedy series, then perhaps maybe for Harriet Dyer in comedy actress, Patrick Bramall in comedy actor, or maybe for a writing nomination. It's very, very good. I highly recommend it. And I'll be very, very disappointed if I don't see it show up somewhere in the nominations.
Are there any kangaroos in it?
Thankfully, no. No kangaroos. But look, I heard in season 2 it's just all they've got a whole new cast of kangaroos and koalas. So that's going to get the Marcus audience.
Well, I want to encourage people. Rob did a chat with Harriet and Patrick together a couple of weeks ago, and that's on our YouTube page as well as our homepage. And it is so funny. People need to watch that, and it might get you into you want to watch the show if you haven't already. So that's some great picks, and that writers branch especially is willing to go out on limbs that other branches aren't. So I would be disappointed if the writers branch doesn't pick up on that. Matt, what about you? A show, a performer in comedy you're hoping gets in?
Well, firstly, like here to Australian comedies crashing the Emmys. That'd be really cool. I look, Reservation Dogs is a show that sort of for the first 2 seasons hasn't gotten, I think, the Emmy recognition it's deserved. And this season, we're actually seeing it really in the mix. It's, I think, 7th at Gold Derby combined odds to break into comedy series. But in the crowded lead actor categories, it would be so nice if Devery Jacobs could break through. She's been so good on that show for 3 seasons. And then you got DeFero Woon Atai in the lead actor race. And it would just be nice, like, according to Gold Derby odds, it's going to sneak into comedy series, but it is one of those shows on the bubble. It hasn't been nominated before. It'd be nice if some of those actors could break through for the show as well. I'd also, on the comedy side, love to see some of the Curb Your Enthusiasm comedy actors break through and sort of get their due. It's an always nominated series. Curb's been nominated for every season except the first. They had, I think, one of the great series finals of all time this year. And just to see like a Susie Essman or a JB Smoove break in, or Ted Danson finally get acknowledged for his work on that show. And, even Richard Lewis, who, be a nice way to honor him. Although I think Susie Essman and JB Smoove might be the ones that'd be really fun to see get nominated.
I know Marcus is really pulling for Jerry Seinfeld on that guest actor.
Yes. Oh, of course.
Yep.
They have
And
a ton of guest actors and guest actresses that, more men than women, but that could get in.
I
And you
have
got Alison Janney on the female side too.
on my dream list, I have Susie and JB, and also Richard Lewis. He would be a good one.
It'd be so cool to see.
One final
And he was great.
opportunity.
He was
Yeah.
great in some of those episodes, particularly earlier in the season, Richard Lewis. So
Ray, what about you?
I too was going to actually mention, like Matt was going to mention Susie Essman, JB Smoove, who I think JB Smoove is actually the secret weapon of Kurd and has been since he started on the show about midway through the series run. But in terms of series, I would love to see Ghosts get some love. I think it's the best comedy on network TV now. Network TV doesn't usually have a whole lot of Emmy attention, since
Who
especially
were some
since
actors and actresses that you really think stood out?
Rebecca Wysocki is really terrific on it, and I feel like she deserves some attention. Also, in terms of comedy acting and show, I feel like Life and Beth is a very underrated show, and Amy Schumer would deserve some attention. I know she doesn't. She's actually, it's a funny show, but has a lot of heart, and is actually quite a good dramatic actress on that show as well. And I think she deserves attention. And one last one, Ian Armitage, from Young Sheldon. Young Sheldon in general, I think, was a highly underappreciated show throughout its run. Now, of course, it's run its course, and I doubt the actor who played Young Sheldon will be singled out. But try and imagine, I mean, that show would have never come to be if that actor didn't exist. I mean, if they didn't find the right actor, it would have never gotten on the air. He's the perfect actor for that show and deserves some Emmy love.
Well, let me also mention Ray hosted a Ghost panel a few weeks ago, and that was not only funny, but very informative. You had a couple of the actresses, you had the two showrunners, you had several people, and it was a really good panel. And this never happens, but it was almost exclusively devoted to one episode that they wanted to promote. And that episode is on our Gold Derby TV Awards ballot. So everybody, please, I'm going to mention this a couple of times during the slugfest, but everybody's got dream shows that they watch, things that'll get in at the Emmys, things that won't get in at the Emmys. You do have a voice with the Gold Derby TV Awards. It's our 21st year. You can go in right now and mark your ballots for up to 4 shows and 4 performers in every single category. And one of the categories is Comedy Episode of the Year. So be sure to go in and vote before July 10th so that we can see what you want nominated for our awards as well. We'll get about over 2,000 people, maybe 2,500 people from around the world that choose those. So if you're ever wondering. So Marcus, what about you?
I am ready for Lisa and Walter and Chris Perfetti to get in for Abbott Elementary.
Yes.
I thought it would happen last year. It didn't. And now we've actually lost an extra slot in supporting. So it's gone from 7 to 6. So, I mean, it's stacked against them, the odds are, but I have my fingers crossed for them. I would vote for them if I was a voter.
Same.
And then for Saturday Night Live, Ego Wodum, Heidi Gardner, Sarah Sherman, they've never been nominated before. I think it's time. I think especially with how funny this season was. I mean, Heidi Gardner and Mikey Day in the Beavis and Butthead sketch, that went viral for all the right reasons. And I don't have my hopes set for them to get in, but if they did, I would just scream on Emmy nominations morning. They all deserve it.
And on the guest side there, I feel pretty comfortable saying, this is not one of my dream selections, but Ryan Gosling and Maya Rudolph, I mean, they should get in for guest. Those were 2 of the best episodes of the year.
Yep.
Well, let me say, I just got into Palm Royale recently, and I'm really enjoying it. And well, Matt, it's partly due to you. You've been hosting all those interviews, and you did a panel for Palm Royale as well. And just an all-star cast. I mean, people that have won Emmys and some Oscars with Laura Dern and Allison Janney. Kristen Wiig,
Grammy winner too, in Ricky
Kristen Wiig really carries the show, as she should. She's the star. But people don't remember, a lot of SNL people have won Emmys. Kate McKinnon recently, and Maya Rudolph has for guesting. But Kristen Wiig still doesn't have an Emmy. And you could give her one on the producing side for comedy series and for lead actress. And I would just think that would be amazing. And then I don't know how they're going to narrow down between Laura Dern and Allison Janney and Carol Burnett of all people. And Leslie Bibb is awfully good on there. So I do encourage people to watch not only Palm Royale, but also Matt's panel with them and his individual interviews with several of them as well. So, and it's such a stylish show. I mean, if you liked like a Desperate Housewives, that really visual, comical, almost slapstick at a time kind of humor, you'll really like this. And it's set in the late 60s in Palm Beach, Florida. So I mean, it's got real style to it as well. Anybody else on comedy before we move to drama?
You've also got Ricky Martin, who holds his own against a cast that's more known for their acting in Palm Royale, which is really lovely to see. And Bruce Dern in a guest acting role too.
Bruce Dern doesn't have an Emmy. I think he's only had 1 or 2 nominations in his career, and he's 88. I mean, to finally get him on screen with his daughter Laura, I mean, that's just amazing, and that would be so cool if he gets in on the nominations.
What about also? Oh, sorry, I was going to say Selena Gomez for Only Murders in the Building. She always
always left out.
She's so good, and
she's somewhat favored for this year, I think, to break through finally.
Yeah, she's really good. I would have also included Bookie, which is on Max, and it stars Sebastian Maniscalco, and it's a Chuck Lorre show, and it's very funny. And it's a great buddy comedy between him and Omar Dorsey, and the writing's really sharp. Charlie Sheen guest stars in the first and the last episodes, which is a big story in itself, given the big falling out between Chuck Lorre and Charlie Sheen. They managed to kind of get over it and build a bridge, and he could get a guest acting nomination, I think, if he's on the ballot. I haven't even checked. But Bookie is very funny, so that's another show that's very much on my radar.
Well, let's talk about drama. Ray, we'll start with you on the drama side. What are some bubble shows or dream nominees you would love to see get nominated on July 17th?
I would love to see Hijack get nominated.
I love Hijack.
Wasn't it great, Rob? It was really, really intense and smooth and beautiful, and kept you on the edge of your seat. Beautifully done. And Idris Elba is just fantastic. Some people I've spoken to have said, well, no, it was basically a plane was the star. But it's like, no, this is incredible acting, and he carried the show. Beautifully done. I also like Parrish a lot, and had a great interview with Giancarlo Esposito, who's a very interesting guy. He really opened up and talked about a lot of personal issues, and I'd love to see him win one of these Emmys. He deserved to win for Breaking Bad, but now I feel like he's going to break through in something, and I hope Parrish is the thing. I also, even though it's a very odd show, The Curse, I think Benny Safdie would deserve a nomination, and in terms of drama actresses, I think she's close to being a favorite, but not quite. She's just outside. Maya Erskine, I think, for the name, I'm forgetting the name of the show.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Thank you. She's just fantastic, and has great chemistry with Donald Glover, and I'd love to see, and who else would really deserve to win? I think she won once, and certainly to get another nomination, just for sheer longevity, is Mariska Hargitay. My God, hasn't she been on that show for 25 years now on Law and Order SVU?
She's still good.
She is. She's still good. She still brings it, and I think she's done 400 episodes. It's like, wow.
Marcus, what about you?
Well, I mean, now I want to mention Grey's Anatomy. If he mentions Law and Order SVU, Grey's Anatomy is still chugging along, season 20.
Just take us back in a time portal, both of you.
So my real one would be Loki, and it is in 10th place, so it's got a shot, but it's it's definitely a bubble show because not a lot of people have it in. And it was season 1 was okay, but season 2 blew me away. I mean, Ki Kwan joining the cast, and I just love the time travel, and then the season finale where they redo this one scene over and over and over, and it's just enjoyable each time. I'm really hoping for that, or some of the acting as well. Drama actress Carrie Preston for Elsbeth is on the edge of a nomination. She's in 8th place, and I think there's only 6, right?
Yeah, 6.
So, I mean, it's possible that she can get in. I have her getting in, and she actually won, the guest star Emmy for the same role for The Good Wife back in 2013, and she's still playing this character a decade later. And if you've seen Elsbeth, it's not as dramatic as a lot of these other dramas. It could have even gone comedy, but it's fun. It's like an old Murder, She Wrote. It's like an old Matlock type show, and every episode has a special guest star. A lot of those I would love to see get in, but I mean, there's not a lot of room. And then one other guest star I wanted to mention, Dale Dickey for Fallout. I love this actress, Dale Dickey, and everything she does. And she played this really quirky store owner in, I think, the 2nd episode of Fallout. And I don't know, everything she does, I love. So I'm pulling for Dale.
Rob, how about you?
So I normally I would always start with the Star Treks. There's 2 of them, Discovery and Strange New Worlds. They're on the, especially Strange New Worlds is a possibility in a couple of categories. Discovery will do well below the line. I think they were both fantastic this season. I agree with Ray. Maya Erskine in Mr. and Mrs. Smith was great, but Donald Glover was a revelation to me. I've never really been a huge adoring fan of Donald Glover. I've always respected and admired him, but in this, I was just blown away with Donald Glover. I think he deserves a nomination, even a win for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And that show just blew me away completely. All the guest stars, Sarah Paulson, Wagner Moura, Parker Posey, you name it. There are so many great guest stars from that show
John
that deserve
Turturro.
it. John Turturro. Yeah, so I
Donald's
really
mother is on the Emmy ballot for playing
Sorry?
his mother. Donald Glover's
Yeah, for playing
mother
his
is on the
mother.
Emmy ballot.
Paul Dano, yeah, like there's a lot. Sharon Horgan is really good in that. So yeah, but for me, the number one show that I'm constantly raving about is Three Body Problem. I was really grateful that I was able to interview so many people from that show because I felt very profoundly like it really, really resonated with me. I watched it twice. I don't usually do that. I just thought it was so brilliant. And it's got definitely got some kind of shot. I think it was doing quite well a few months ago, and then it's petered off a bit. It could do well, it could get nothing. So we'll just see what happens. But Jess Hong and Alex Sharp and Rosalind Chow, all those people are really, really, really good. And one final thing, it's my probably like my number 2 show of the whole season, sorry. And it probably won't get anything, but I absolutely adore Special Ops Lioness. I just think that is TV perfection. Every single moment of that show, I was on the edge of my seat. I listened to the music on my phone all the time. Zoe Saldana is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, I would love to see a Taylor Sheridan show actually do well at the Emmys for a change. And I think if any of them will, it could be this because it's the least red state show, if you want to put it that way, out there. And so I really hope for that. And finally, Slow Horses. I really adored that show. I just found that to be such an easy watch. It's so fun. So drama for me is where all the really, really good stuff is.
Well, that would be great if a show finally makes it through its 3rd season. And I think in our projections, it should get into series. And Gary Oldman, and I know your buddy Jack Loudon, you're really hoping gets into supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Matt, how about you on drama?
Well, I think like drama is super interesting as we've been talking about, like, with a category which has lost in the past year, Succession, Better Call Saul, Succession, Better Call Saul, The Last of Us, The White Lotus. Like, there's like a lot of uncertainty as to which shows the Academy will go with. It won't be just the same crop as last year. So I actually think there's like not many locks here. I'd love to see The Curse break in because I think that's such a different type of show. It's like such a weird little one that's sort of different. And I was excited to see shows because we've got like Your Successions, Better Call Saul's, Last of Us all like not competing this year. It gives an opportunity for shows that might otherwise not have gotten nominated, like a Loki, as Marcus spoke about, to break through. There's a lot of attention on Emma Stone for The Curse, but like Nathan Fielder, I think there's that scene where they're like he's taking off the shirt and they get in a fight, and like it's just the like for Emma and Nathan, the little nuances and how they shift what they're doing in that scene and like how they're feeling in that scene. Just I think like one of the great sort of acting scenes of the year. And so I'd love to see Nathan also get attention, not just Emma, for that show. Yeah, like I agree with a lot of the other names people have thrown out here too.
Well, I know it's firmly in our predictions in terms of odds, and that's the morning show, but it's never gotten into series. So I don't think we can count those chickens until we see them hatch. It should be safe for several acting nominations. I would love to see John Hamm get back at the Emmys. That would be fun. He's pretty safely, well, I know he's right on the bubble of our odds in terms of getting in. Billy, being number one in the odds there. I was going to mention the more Mr. and Mrs. between Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Elsbeth. I mean, they could both consume all of the guest acting nominations, and nobody would blink an eye. I mean, I would say on Elsbeth, one that really stood out to me was Jane Krakowski.
Yep.
It's finally time for her to win an Emmy. I mean, she really
yes.
has had such a great. I asked her one time, she keeps getting involved in these series that wind up at Emmys, and sometimes she gets in too. But you go back to Ally McBeal and 30 Rock, and then Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and now Elsbeth. I mean, she's having an amazing career. So I would love to see her finally get back at the Emmys and actually win. And then you mentioned all the Mr. and Mrs. Smith people. So let's talk about limited series. It's just a bloodbath this year. I mean, it's less slots than anybody would like to see, and more quality projects than I think we've ever had before. They really need to think about over at the Academy how to loosen up some of those rules to accommodate quality over quantity in terms of the number of slots, because there are going to be 5 limited series left out, and probably 5 actors and 5 actresses on the lead slots that could have gotten in easily in any other year.
Yeah.
And we're gonna look at names and go, wow, how did they not make it in? So let's start with Marcus on ones you're wanting to push.
My favorite limited series of the year is probably going to be completely skunked, which I'm not happy about, but it's Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix. Yes. And Mary McDonnell for supporting actress, Carla Gugino, am I pronouncing that right, for lead actress? If I was a voter, I would vote for all of them. And I have a feeling they're all going to be on the cutting room floor, which is very unfortunate. And
you know what, Marcus, by the way, Carla Gugino has never been nominated for anything other than a Critics' Choice Award. Like, she is so good in all the Mike Flanagan series that she's been in, particularly this as playing the Raven in this amazing show. And I totally agree with Marcus. Like, I hope she gets something for this, or something for her career. She still has nothing, and that's ridiculous.
Well, guess what? We can vote for her for the Gold Derby Awards. That's what really
matters. We will.
And then for Fargo, I mean, a lot of the Fargo people are going to get nominated, but I'm a little surprised Sam Spruill is down in 7th place, because he was the breakout for me. He would be where my vote went if I was a voter. And I mean, just looking at the list, a lot of my favorites are like in the top 5, 6, so I'm not going to mention them. Johnny Flynn for Ripley, I hope gets in. I absolutely loved Ripley. And I'm also predicting Dakota, but I have a feeling she may not get the nomination. So we'll see.
Matt, how about you?
Yeah, like firstly, just off the back of Marcus there, I know Fargo's one of the front rows in a lot of categories, but Sam Spruill is so good in that. In that, and like there's a flashback scene to him in the series. I won't spoil too much if people haven't seen it, but it's almost like if that scene were moved to the first scene of the season, it would almost be the season would tell the story of his character. Like I think like it's such a great performance that he does a lot with sort of like a very quiet character, and also like in Fargo, Joe Keery and who is it? David. Let me make sure I get the name right.
Resdale or something. You interviewed him.
David Resdale. Like they're also fantastic, and I think like supporting actors probably the category that Fargo's like the least of a lock in. It's sort of like you've got 3 supporting actors that are all well, Dave Foley's good in it as well, but like you've got like 3 or 4 supporting actors that are all sort of competing for those slots.
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out is when you get an older anthology series, which rightfully belongs in limited and movie, not saying that at all. When they get older, do people drop them because they like the shiny new toy that they're only going to get one shot at? And that's why people wonder what's going to happen to Black Mirror for the
which is like that's not like back in the day that was like an Emmy darling, although it was like in the TV movie category for a bit. Now it's in mini series. It's funny, people when it was in like TV movie, like, oh, it's not really a TV movie, it's a series. Now it's in the mini series category or the limited series anthology series category. Some people are like, oh, not sure if it fits there, maybe they should have submitted things in, but like, so it's like a bit of a mess. But like Black Mirror had some awesome episodes. Joan is awful. It'd be great to see Annie Murphy.
The Aaron Paul one was good.
Aaron Paul.
Yeah, they're pushing that one. If anything gets in, I would think on the directing or writing side, it's probably that.
I agree.
Rob, what about you on limited or movies?
So I most of my favorites as well are in the top, although we all know Baby Reindeer will do well. I really hope Nava Mal.
But do we know they're in the top in this particular genre? We don't.
Yeah.
Other than Baby Reindeer, I don't know that anything's safe.
I don't know. I feel like Baby Reindeer and probably Fargo are probably making it in some way, shape, or form. Ripley maybe, but Nava Mal is so great in Baby Reindeer, and all the attention's on Jessica Gunning. But I think Nava Mal is so good in that as well. I hope she makes it in. She's in 6th place right now in our odds. There's a movie called No One Will Save You that I happened to interview Caitlin Dever right at the end of our Phase 1 Emmys. And
Our
I
last one, number 485 was Caitlin
exactly. And I watched it and I was so impressed by it. I'm so glad I was able to see it. And now I'm telling everybody it's on Hulu, Disney Plus in Australia, and it's about a woman who is being attacked by an alien in her home, and there's only 5 words of dialogue in the whole thing, and she is incredible, and it's great sci-fi. So I hope that makes it into movie. And finally, I really love The Kane Mutiny Court Martial. It's William Friedkin's final directorial achievement. Kiefer Sutherland is so good in it, but the highlight from that particular film is Jason Clarke. He always gives great performances and sometimes seems to just always be overlooked. I hope that does really well. And I want to speak for Denton. He's not here, obviously, now, but he and I seem to have really enjoyed Mary and George. It's very rude. It's almost X-rated, but it's very funny and it's very, it's beautifully done. Julianne Moore and so forth. Stars never get to look in. We know with the Outlander snubs every year, but I just feel like there is some potential for things like expats and things that are on the bubble. Like someone like Sarah U. Blue from Expats is so wonderful. There is potential for these little outsiders to make an impact, but unfortunately, the competition is so fierce in limited and movies. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, there's going to be Oscar winners, Emmy winners, Tony winners that don't even, if we were to see they didn't even make the top, 5 or 10. What about you, Ray, on limited or movies?
Where do I even begin? This is just such an embarrassment of riches. It's just mind-boggling. I mean, the fact that there are only going to be 5 slots for series itself is a crime. I'm looking at shows that are probably not going to make it through. Griselda, you know, Sofia Vergara, I'm sure will get a nomination, but for the show itself is really beautifully done. Under the Bridge, which is a highly underrated 8-parter. The Tattooist of Auschwitz, Painkiller. Painkiller was incredibly well done. And Uzo Aduba, she gets the Emmy voters tend to really like her, but she's certainly not favored in our odds to get in yet. Even films like The Great Lillian Hall, not guaranteed to get in, and it's probably the best thing an Oscar winner in Jessica Lange has ever done. I mean, she is so good.
I loved it.
Yeah, I feel like she's got to be a lock for nomination. Somebody
I think I moved her up to second on my predictions just because she's having an unbelievable year with the Tony nomination, and she's just a living legend. And I do think people, did see it right at the end of oh, sorry, that was very loud. Right at the end of the cutoff for Emmy eligibility. So I'm hoping people saw that.
Somebody like Ari Emile Roberti, the blind actress from All the Light We Cannot See, who is fantastic and hasn't gotten enough notice. But there's just so few slots and so many contenders. TV movie Musica with Rudy Mancuso was incredibly charming and beautifully done. And Masters of the Air, we haven't even brought that up. And I felt like it was very powerful and very well done. Probably not the best in that series, the Band of Brothers, the Pacific, Masters of the Air series, from Spielberg and Hanks, but it's still very well done. And Callum Turner, who gave me a great interview, is terrific in it and deserves a nomination. Also, Chloe Guidry, who plays the really mean girl who instigates the murder in Under the Bridge. She's so evil. And when I interviewed her on Gold Derby, she was just this sweet little Southern belle from Tennessee. And I'm just like, wow, okay, so she doesn't have a mean bone in her body. This was clearly an acting job.
Yeah.
So, there's so many worthy contenders here that I would love to see get attention.
Well, let me just say, because of the sheer volume, I think Baby Reindeer's safe. Nothing else is safe. So even though it's in like second or third in our odds, let me just say Lessons in Chemistry, I'm hoping gets all the attention it deserves. We went to an event for them about 3 weeks ago, and so Apple is really behind it, and Brie Larson could possibly get that Emmy to go with her Oscar. I was going to say another one on the limited side, but it's evaporated from my mind. But let me say, the longest and most I've laughed on anything, feature film, TV, series, TV movie, limited, anything in the past year was Unfrosted on Netflix. And I loved it. And it was so creative and inventive. It should at least get into TV movie. I don't think any of the actors are getting in. And then writing, I would hope it maybe gets into writing. But that was the Jerry Seinfeld, his first time ever directing, and it was just so creative. And I just want to give a mention to that. Now, we do need to wrap up, but is there any other type of category that you want to name something, a variety, reality, documentaries, anything along those lines? Marcus, you seem to have something already in mind.
The first one that came to mind was The Traitors and Alan Cumming. We thought they would get in last year, and they didn't. So I hope the show gets in.
I think they're safely in, but you don't know till you know.
And I mean, I think they even deserve to win. It's that good. So fingers crossed.
I think
Alan would be a great nomination. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, it was so great to see Survivor just come out of the wilderness last year in that reality competition program. I think it's the best and most consistent reality competition show in history. And it'd be great to see the fact they've never won that category is absurd. The fact they haven't been nominated, they hadn't been nominated for most of the series runs absurd. So I'd love to see them back it up. And my other one is in animation. Futurama returned to TV this year. A 2-time winner that isn't high up in our predictions at all. So I just think that's one of the great animated series, and it'd be great to see Futurama get back in the Emmy race.
Ray,
Speaking
is
of
there another
animation,
category that you want
speaking of
to?
animation, I would also like to put in a vote for Archer, which I
Mm.
always thought was really funny and really creative and beautifully done. And it was also just had its last season on FX and never got as much attention and praise as I felt like it deserved. Would love to see that get in, squeeze into the list.
And
And
Rob, something off the beaten path.
yeah, you know, sometimes when you watch TV, something that takes your breath away, it doesn't happen very often. For me, it happened twice when it wasn't a performance, and that was the visual effects on Three Body Problem. There's a particular episode, episode 5, where a ship in the Panama Canal is sliced like deli meat, and it was just blew my mind. And also the costumes in the Gilded Age, I've never seen anything like it in my whole life of watching TV and film. And I don't even think it was nominated for season 1. Only the production design was. We expect
That's a good show. I love that show, Rob.
I remember saying, "Oh, who cares about the Gilded Age? It looks like such a boring costume drama." I was so wrong. It is one of the best shows on TV, and it's going to do well, I think. But in costumes, they might as well cancel that category. Just give it to the costume designer from the Gilded Age, because I've never seen costumes that impressive in my whole life. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm being completely serious.
Let me mention 3 or 4 things just as we wrap up, because it's even harder to predict technical categories or some of these other categories when you don't have a hit. You know, it's a one-time only shot. So I want to say the cinematography in Ripley is amazing. I would be so disappointed if that doesn't get in. The patter song that Steve Martin does in Only Murders. They had so many good songs this year, and wisely, as we always recommend to people, don't submit too many, directors or too many writers. They wisely chose to just narrow down to this one song from Only Murders, which if it wins, it will give it'll make Binge and Justin EGOT winners number 20 and 21.
Wow.
So I would love to see that win. And then I was going to mention I am so disappointed that Variety Talk is going down to 4, because anybody that knows me knows I watch them. I'll either watch them live or record them and watch them the next day or a couple of days later. I just love, Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and just on and on and on. And somebody's going to get left out. And you got some new people coming in. John Mulaney has that the Netflix show, which I don't know that it's really fair to have a 6-episode John Mulaney series up against people that put out 200 episodes a year. But that's Hot Ones is as hot as can be. So it's going to narrow down to 4, and there's going to be some people really disappointed that they don't get in. What was the other thing I was going to say? Documentaries. I don't watch a ton of documentaries, and I'm not one that loves the really bleak, hard to sit through kind of documentaries. I have to admit I love entertainer documentaries, and there were a ton this year. I love The Greatest Night in Pop on Netflix. I love the Paul Simon documentary. I love the Steve Martin documentary. I just watched one the Gene Wilder documentary. I don't think that one's eligible for this year, though. That just debuted, but there are some that are just amazing that I really didn't know a lot about those people and what they'd gone through in their lives, and it was fascinating to watch. So
I was going to say Jim Henson's work is so formative in
the Jim Henson when I talked to Ron Howard,
and television, and just to see that story told so beautifully by Ron Howard, like that's incredible, that one.
And he got all the Muppet people in there and all the family in there. I mean, that's a great one. I would love to see Ron Howard. Ron Howard's never won a directing. I mean, he's got a few on the producing side, but never on directing. So any final thoughts from anybody? Well, we've had
looking forward to the nominations on the 17th.
Oh, we've been working. I launched the Prediction Center in January, so you know how much I enjoy moving on to another cycle and seeing what actually gets nominated and wins. But We've enjoyed having Rob and Matt in Sydney on an early morning, Marcus and Ray in LA on a late afternoon. I'm in LA as well. Let me just say, you can see anybody's predictions. We have all of our editors, not just the ones here, and all of our freelancers. You can see their predictions on Gold Derby. We change them weekly or so, we will all continue to make updates. And the Gold Derby Awards, let me remind you again, until July 10th, you can take some of our suggestions, or you can mark anything you want for 30 different categories. We also have 3 that the Emmys don't have: Breakthrough Performer of the Year, Performer of the Year, and Ensemble of the Year. So please get in there and vote. We need your thoughts and your ideas on what you thought was the best of the year, because we know you're a passionate TV watcher. And we thank all of you for visiting Gold Derby and hope you have a great day.